barbells and battlefields. Today I will continue going over my current steroid cycle, and as always, before we start the video, just a little disclaimer. I am not a doctor or physician of any kind, nor am I instructing or advising you on the use of performance enhancing drugs. This is simply just an informational video on what somebody like me uses for PEDs for the sport of strongman. So let's get into it. We left off in the December portion of the cycle. During the December portion of the cycle, we were using 3 different kinds of testosterone: sustanon, enanthate, and propionate, with a total of 420 milligrams of test per week. EQ is at 175 milligrams per week. We had Anavar at 50 milligrams per day and Arimidex at 2 milligrams per week. Now, going into January, we are actually going to be switching from test Sust and test E mixed with test P to test C and test P. Now, the reasoning for that, test C is what I had. All test is pretty much the same. The only difference between tests or different kinds of things like that is the esters. The ester is basically what controls how quickly the chemical releases in your blood and how long it lasts in your blood, or the half-life of that chemical. So, for the month of January, we'll be going to test C at 300 milligrams per week, test P at 200 milligrams per week, for a grand total of 500 milligrams. And that is, as we see, only an 80 milligram increase from the previous month. Now, when it comes to the EQ, we're going to go from 175 milligrams to 250 milligrams per week, 75 milligram increase. We're going to take out the Anavar, as most orals are. They are short-lived. I actually don't recommend orals for the most part. If anything, they're just kind of for fun. The reason I say that is because of the retention afterwards. See, with most oils, you're able to retain, I would say, somewhere around 30 to 50% of the gains that you make during the cycle. While with orals, you really don't retain anything once you come off of them. Cutters are a little different, like Anavar, Winnostrol, and Clen. The reason being is because those are cutters, so if you maintain a good diet and good exercise after you come off, you can definitely keep off a lot of that fat. That being said, it's still easier to be much leaner while on the substances themselves. So, going in forward into the month of February, the test is going to stay the same, 500 milligrams per week between the both test C and P. The EQ is going to increase another 100 milligrams to 350 milligrams per week. And we're going to add in Primobolan at 150 milligrams per week. Now, Primobolan is in the dihydrotestosterone class of steroids. For those who don't know, there are 3 families of steroids. There's testosterone and testosterone-based steroids, nandrolone and nandrolone-based, and dihydrotestosterone testosterone-based. Now, we'll go more into this in a different video, but one of the best ways to build a cycle is to actually incorporate one from each family. So, for example, you could use test, nandrolone, which is a deca or a tren, and then you would add in a dihydrotestosterone, a primobolan, a masteron, anavar, something like that. Now, each family of steroids has different attributes that it specifically works towards. Most nandrolones are for strength and size, while testosterones are kind of more broad and can be used for more different things. While the dihydrotestosterones are generally for lean gains for the most part, or losing weight. So, as you can see, we're sticking to the titration method. We're not going very crazy, keeping it mellow. You'll see that the cycle will definitely increase to more of a blast towards the competition season. I won't be competing until about June time, so you'll really see the numbers spike around the May-June time. Especially for these longer cycles, you want to try and hold back for the most part during the earlier parts of the cycle, especially if you're using it for strength purposes. It's a little bit different for bodybuilding because the off season is a lot more important. Not to say that the off season isn't important for strength sports, but in terms of the peak, definitely want to be on the most towards the competition. So now we're going to go a little bit more into some comments and questions that I got last time. So one of the other questions I got, and people really harped on me for this, is why do I use different kinds of testosterone? Well, like I said earlier, in the end of the day, testosterone is testosterone, and the only difference is the esters, the release time into your blood, and the half-life. So, in the end of the day, the mixing of testosterones is completely just in my brain. It's for my own satisfaction and my own OCD. You don't need to do that. I do enjoy the mix between long and short ester testosterones because the short ester testosterone gives you that instant gratification. Same thing with like a nandrolone phenylpropionate or NPP. It's basically fast-acting DECA. Anything fast-acting, you're going to enjoy it. The faster the gains come, the happier you're going to be because we're all sick fucks. And then the other thing was injection frequency. Now, when it comes to injection frequency, I like to inject, no matter what the substance is or the ester, a minimum of every third day. But as the cycle continues, I'll even go to every other day or every day. Now, there are a few reasons for that. One of the first reasons is for blood stability. So the more often that you inject, the more stable your blood levels will be. And that is part of keeping us a little bit safer while we do this. You don't want too many spikes and valleys throughout your cycle. The other thing is when you increase, like if you're during a blast, if you have a large volume of that you need to inject, it becomes a lot easier to inject a smaller amount more frequently rather than building up a dose that becomes gigantic and then you end up having to put 3 cc's in one injection. That's pretty hefty and it's not going to be fun. I've done it plenty of times before because I got lazy and I didn't want to pin every day. But I will always recommend the more you can inject, the better. So if you go every day is the best. That becomes much more prevalent though and mandatory when you're using short ester substances. If you're using sustenance, decanates, things like that, you definitely can get away with even once a week on the injections. So really it's up to preference, but I will always encourage people to inject more often. Now, one last little tidbit. If you guys have any more questions or comments, please comment them in the comment section. Do not DM them to me privately. That defeats the purpose of this whole thing. And although I know you guys don't like to admit you're on gear like I do, just puts the comments in the questions, or I'm not going to answer them. All right, guys, welcome. Thank you again for joining Barbells and Battlefields. We'll catch you next time to continue the steroid cycle. And yeah, I think that's about it. Last thing. So we should keep a weight tracker on me, I guess, while as we continue the cycle. So in the month of December, I was around 275 pounds. And nearing the end of December, going into January, I'm at 283 pounds. So that's it. Big love from the Saiyan Strongman, and we'll catch you next time.